All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful way of thinking about decision making and, well, mastery itself. We're using the super high stakes world of elite trading as our backdrop, but let me be clear. Even if you never place a single trade, these lessons apply to anyone trying to master a complex skill when the pressure's on. So let's start with the big question. Why do almost all aspiring traders, like 99% of them, fail? You hear all the usual reasons, right? They used too much leverage, they were impatient, they had a bad strategy. But honestly, those are just symptoms. They're not the real disease. The real problem runs much, much deeper. And here it is. This is the core idea we're going to unpack. Success isn't about finding some secret strategy or a magic indicator that nobody else knows about. No way. It's forged in a disciplined, repeatable process. The huge gap between the 1% who make it and the 99% who don't, it's not a talent gap, it's a behavioral gap. So where's this whole journey start? Well, it starts small, really small, with something called the small account test. Now, this is not about getting rich quick with a couple $100. It's a proving ground. It's where you build the character and the discipline that you're gonna need when the challenges get much, much bigger. This ancient piece of wisdom is basically the mission statement for the small account. Little by little, it completely flips the script on what the goal is. You're not trying to turn $500 into $5,000 in a month. You're just learning how to execute a process, faithfully and consistently. You're gathering skill, little by little. This is so, so important. A small account is really a test of your faithfulness. If you treat it like a lottery ticket, it's only $500, I promise you it will disappear. But if you manage it with the exact same precision and integrity that a $500,000 account would require, you're building the very character that big money demands. So what does that professional process actually look like? Well, here it is. The first 5 steps, they're all about the mechanics, right? You're dialing in your risk, you're focusing on just one market, you're testing your edge. But step 6 is the huge mindset shift. Your measure of success is no longer profit. It's your compliance rate. The only question you should ask at the end of the day is, did I follow my rules? Period. Okay, so if you're following a process, you're gonna make mistakes. That's just part of the deal. And you know what? That's not just okay, it's absolutely essential. Because the crucible of those mistakes, that's where the real learning happens. That's where your character is forged. And in fact, this whole process forces us to completely rethink what a win and a loss even are. Now this is where it gets really interesting, because it just flips our whole idea of success on its head. A clean loss, that's a trade where you followed every single one of your rules, but it just didn't work out. That's an achievement. Seriously, it's proof that your system is working. But a non-compliant win, where you break the rules and you just get lucky, that is a catastrophe. It teaches your brain the absolute worst lesson you could ever learn, that your rules are optional. Just let that sink in for a second. The most expensive trade you will ever make is not some huge loss. It's that small, rule-breaking win that convinces you that, hey, maybe I don't need all this discipline. That one lucky trade can plant a seed of chaos that can wipe out months of your hard work. And if you want to see the cost of breaking just one fundamental rule, look at this number. This represents the loss from a single trade. A trade where the rule always use a stop loss, which is your safety net, right, was ignored. Why? Because of a feeling of false certainty. And just like that, over a quarter of an account, gone. All because a core process was broken. So here's the bottom line. Failure is going to happen, but learning from it, that's a choice. The real disaster isn't losing the money, it's failing to do an honest breakdown of what happened, to pull the lesson out of the wreckage, and to use that painful data to make your process even stronger for next time. And all of this leads us to the core transformation. See, once you really understand the value of having a process, and you start seeing your mistakes as valuable data, then you can start the real work of rewiring your mind for elite-level performance. And this is the central operating system for any elite performer. Process over outcome. What does that mean? It means you totally detach your ego, your sense of self-worth, your definition of a good day from the random results of the market. You anchor yourself to the only thing you actually have control over, your own behavior. And what does that look like in real life? It looks like these 8 specific behaviors. Now, just look at this list. None of these are about being a genius or having some secret formula. They're about structure, honesty, preparation, and managing your own emotions. These aren't things you're born with. They are skills. And they can be built one day at a time through deliberate practice. And this, right here, is probably the most empowering idea in this whole explainer.
The difference between the best of the best and everybody else, it's not some innate talent, it's a behavioral gap. And you know what's so great about that? Because it's about behavior, it's a gap that anyone with enough discipline and self-honesty can choose to close.
Okay, so you do all this hard work. You build the process, you close that behavioral gap. So what's the real payoff here? I mean, beyond just a number in an account, what are you really building? This chart says it all. The vast majority of people, the 99%, are obsessed with strategy, the what to do. They spend 80% of their time hunting for that perfect system. But the elite, they've completely flipped the script. They know a decent strategy is not that hard to find. The real work, the 80% of their effort, is spent on psychology, on the how to be while they're executing. They manage themselves first and the market second.
And that is the real return on your investment. The profit, it's just a byproduct. The real return is the person you become. You're not just building a trading account, you're building the psychological infrastructure to handle enormous pressure, to stay calm when everything is chaotic, and to handle success without letting it go to your head. You're building true resilience.
Ultimately, this whole thing is a journey toward true mastery, not just talent and not just knowledge, but skill. The kind of deep, process-driven skill that's rare, that's incredibly valuable, and that's respected in any field of human endeavor. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about, and it doesn't matter what your field is. Take a good, honest look at your own goals and your own work. Are you building a disciplined, repeatable process that's designed to last, or are you just chasing the short-term outcome?